Smoke drifted like ghosts over the battlefield, curling through the twisted remains of machines once proud and terrible. The air shimmered with radiation and the metallic tang of burnt alloys. Marcus Hale lay half-buried under a collapsed walker, his armor systems flickering weakly, his visor cracked and bleeding light. Each breath tasted of iron and ash. The war had moved on, leaving him behind as debris, just another forgotten soldier on another ruined world. The comm channels were silent now, only the faint hum of static whispering in his ears like distant ghosts calling his name. Somewhere above the choking clouds, alien ships retreated into orbit, believing their work complete. The bombardment had scorched everything living from the planet's surface, reducing forests to molten glass and mountains to fractured plains. Marcus blinked against the crimson haze. His pulse monitor screamed a warning, then fell silent as the power core of his suit flickered out. Darkness pressed close, thick and absolute, broken only by the dim red glow of his cracked helmet HUD. He tried to move, but pain lanced through his side where shrapnel had lodged deep beneath the armor. His fingers twitched, gripping a handful of scorched soil. He thought of Earth, of sunlight, wind, the sound of rain, and realized how far from all of it he had fallen. No rescue signal would ever reach this forgotten planet. No one would come. The thought settled in his chest like ice, but something moved nearby, a faint tremor in the dust. Then another. Marcus froze, listening. Not mechanical, not enemy drones. The rhythm was uneven, almost alive. He turned his head slightly, visor cracked but functional enough to catch movement. Small shapes darting between the smoke, glints of golden light reflecting off scaled bodies. He blinked again, unsure if his oxygen-starved brain had conjured hallucinations. Tiny figures approached, cautiously, their eyes glowing like embers in the dark. One chirped softly, a sound like static mixed with a purr. Marcus's breath caught. They looked like miniature dragons, alive, curious, unafraid. One tilted its head and stepped closer, tapping its snout against his helmet. Against all reason, the dying Marine let out a hoarse laugh that echoed hollowly inside the helmet. He was not alone. When Marcus awoke again, the world had changed. The crimson glare of the sky had faded into a dim twilight, and his helmet was gone. Warm air brushed his face, thick with the scent of ozone and mineral dust. Something soft and rhythmic pressed against his shoulder, steady, breathing. He turned his head slowly and saw the small creatures curled around him, their scales pulsing with faint bioluminescent patterns. They slept like children beside a fire, tiny chests rising and falling in unison. For a long moment, he simply watched them. Their presence defied every scientific record he knew. The draconids of Dravon 6 had been extinct for centuries, eradicated during the Dominion purges. Yet here they were, fragile and luminous, their tails coiled around his shattered armor plates as if guarding him. His visor lay nearby, half melted, and the interface flickered faintly with dying energy. He reached for it, activating what little power remained. The HUD showed oxygen low, hydration critical, suit integrity at 30%. He had maybe 2 days before his systems failed entirely. He tried to stand, but pain dragged him back to the ground. The hatchlings stirred, chirping in alarm. One of them, larger than the rest, with scales that glimmered faint red, spread its wings in defense, hissing softly. Marcus raised a trembling hand. "Easy," he rasped, his voice barely more than a whisper. The creature tilted its head, studying him, then folded its wings again. The others followed its lead. Over the next hours, Marcus scavenged through the ruins of a downed transport, gathering scraps of ration gel, fragments of power cells, anything usable. The hatchlings followed him everywhere, mimicking his movements with uncanny intelligence. When he stumbled, they chirped in unison, as if urging him forward. He found himself speaking to them, nonsense words just to fill the silence. They seemed to respond to tone more than language, their scales flickering in patterns he couldn't yet decipher. At night, when the cold settled over the barren wasteland, they gathered close around him again. Their internal heat warmed the air. Their breath smelled faintly of plasma residue. As he drifted into uneasy sleep, Marcus realized the truth with a shiver of awe. These hatchlings had survived the extinction of their kind by hiding deep beneath the surface, waiting out the centuries. And somehow, impossibly, they had chosen him. Days blurred into one another beneath the dim skies of Dravon 6. Marcus marked time by the slow recovery of his strength and the strange growth of the hatchlings. Their scales hardened, their wings stretched wider each dawn, and the faint hum beneath their skin, some kind of bioenergy field, grew stronger. He had patched his armor using melted alloys and bits of alien circuitry scavenged from wreckage, fashioning crude sensors and a portable heat shield. The dragons watched him work, mimicking his gestures with their claws, curious and eager to learn. He began to understand them in fragments, chirps that meant hunger, quick flicks of tail that meant fear, color shifts across their scales that mirrored emotion. The red-scaled one, the first to approach him, he named Ember. She was bold, reckless, and fiercely protective, often placing herself between him and shadows in the ruins. When he spoke her name, she emitted a low hum that vibrated through the air, resonating with the same frequency as his armor's energy coils. It wasn't mere coincidence. Something in their biology aligned with human technology, reacting to it. One evening, while testing his recharged comm unit, Marcus intercepted faint transmissions, alien signals, not human. The voices spoke in fractured Dravonic dialects, discussing salvage teams, organic weapon remnants, and bounties for live specimens. His gut clenched. Someone was returning to the planet, hunting. The hatchlings sensed his tension. They circled closer, their eyes glowing brighter. That night, as plasma storms rolled over the horizon, Marcus modified his suit's neural interface. He connected it to a shard of biocrystal from the hatchling's nest, curious if their energy could enhance his systems. The result startled him. His HUD pulsed alive, reading unknown data streams, heat signatures, pulse rhythms, emotional states. He could feel them now, faintly, like whispers brushing the edge of his thoughts. When Ember lifted her head and looked toward the storm, Marcus followed her gaze. Beyond the lightning-lit horizon, metallic shapes descended through the clouds, scavenger dropships. He touched the rifle at his side and whispered to the hatchlings, "We'll need to move." They understood. He saw it in the sudden flare of their scales. For the first time since the war began, Marcus Hale felt the fire of purpose returning to his blood. By dawn, the scavenger dropships had pierced the lower atmosphere, their engines cutting through the silence like distant thunder. Marcus crouched among the ruins, his armor darkened with ash, his breath steady in his helmet. The hatchlings gathered close, their scales dimmed to blend into the gray landscape. Through the faint link of his neural interface, he felt their unease, flashes of sound, light, instinct. They understood danger in a way no machine could. He watched the ships land in the valley below, their hulls marked with alien sigils. Teams of bipedal figures emerged, wearing respirators and wielding plasma rifles. They fanned out across the terrain, scanning with wide-beam sensors that cut through dust and shadow. Marcus had fought their kind before, Dravonic mercenaries, scavengers feeding on the bones of war. They moved with arrogance, confident no living human could remain on this cursed world. Marcus waited until the nearest group came within range. His rifle hummed quietly as he charged the cell. He didn't shoot first. He let them find the false beacon he'd planted, his old transponder flashing weak distress codes. When one of them bent to retrieve it, Marcus squeezed the trigger. A bolt of blue light tore through the mist, striking the scavenger square in the chest. The others spun, shouting in their alien tongue, firing blindly into the ruins. The hatchlings reacted instantly. They scattered, darting between the rocks, releasing bursts of searing plasma from their throats. It wasn't fire but something more, ionized gas mixed with bioluminescent energy. The scavengers' armor melted like wax. Marcus moved between them with soldier's precision, using the dragon's chaos as cover. The air shimmered with energy pulses and the metallic tang of ozone. When the last enemy fell, silence reclaimed the valley. Smoke rose in thin ribbons from the bodies, and Marcus knelt, reloading, breathing hard. Ember approached cautiously, her scales glowing with residual heat. She pressed her head against his shoulder, her hum merging with the static of his comms. For the first time, Marcus realized the connection wasn't just emotional, it was symbiotic. His suit drew power from her presence. Together, they had become something new. And the galaxy, though it didn't know it yet, would soon have reason to remember why humans were never truly defeated. In the days that followed, Marcus transformed the ruins into a fortress of motion and light. The hatchlings had grown larger now, sleek and strong, their wings casting long shadows against the cracked surface of Dravon 6. Ember led the others with an intelligence that startled him. She could anticipate his gestures, sense his thoughts through the faint link that pulsed between their minds. He had adapted his neural interface to sync with their biofields, turning the connection into a tactical network. When one sensed danger, all of them felt it. From the cliffs above the valley, Marcus watched the scavenger fleet regroup. They had returned in force, 5 ships this time, with crawler mechs and orbital drones sweeping the terrain. His armor's sensors mapped their formation in ghostly blue outlines. He whispered commands through his helmet, not to other humans but to the creatures beside him. The hatchlings responded with soft growls that vibrated through the air, their scales flashing like coded signals. When the attack came, it began with light. Plasma fire rained from the sky, scarring the valley floor. Marcus moved through the chaos like a ghost,